Welcome back, Sebastian here. So today I want to talk about 6 Formula One drivers who I feel have had a bit of a disappointing 2023 season. So I don't think I'm going to do these in any particular order. I just have 6 written down here. I think starting at the top is Charles Leclerc. So for Leclerc, he's currently, let's see, where is he now? He's going to be 6th in the championship, I believe. Yeah, 6th in the championship, behind his teammate Carlos Sainz in the points head-to-head. And for Leclerc, I don't think he's had a bad year. I think the on-track performances have been pretty good, but definitely having no wins compared to last year, and I think compared to expectations coming into this year, he will definitely be disappointed with how the season went. Of course, with Sainz delivering Ferrari's only win of the season in Singapore. And of course, with Ferrari, one of the things that's been commented on with this year's car is that it's quite unpredictable from weekend to weekend, which has definitely not helped either driver gain a ton of confidence in the car. The other thing is that Leclerc, I think both drivers have noted that it's tends to be a very understeery car, which is not how Leclerc prefers it. He prefers an oversteery car compared to Sainz, who is happier with that understeer. So, but all the noises coming out of Ferrari suggest that, and from Leclerc suggest that he is quite looking forward to getting rid of this year's car. Probably doubly so after the DNS that he got in Brazil, and very much looking forward to next year. Now, number 2, Lance Stroll. So I think coming into this year, I don't think many people expected him to beat Fernando Alonso in really any kind of competitive metric. But I do think there was an expectation that he would at least be somewhat close to Alonso. And what close is really depends. Alonso is a fantastic driver, and I think this year, with finally, after such a long time without machinery to prove himself, I think this year we've really seen how good Fernando Alonso still is. So of course that makes it difficult for Stroll to start with, but I do think for Stroll, his season was really derailed before it even got started with that wrist injury. And I do think it's had a bigger effect on him than I think, maybe he would care to admit. In Formula E, most people here probably watching the video probably don't watch Formula E, but one of the better drivers in the series, Robin Frijns, broke his wrist in the first race of the season in Mexico, came back 6 weeks later, but still didn't have a great year, was beaten by his teammate who most would consider to be not as good as him. So I do think that with these kinds of injuries, it can take a long time, and all of those laps he would have missed at the preseason testing would accumulate over the season. So even though he did heal and he did have a pretty good run at the start of the season, maybe he was running off of adrenaline or whatever, who knows. But he definitely has struggled this year, and I do think that he'll be looking for a big bounce back next year. And what that kind of bounce back is, I don't know. I think just being much closer than he is probably what he's aiming for. Number 3, this is a bit of an interesting one. So I think statistically for Esteban Ocon, this year has not been particularly poor. He does have a podium, not too far off his teammate, but I think the real concerning bit for Ocon is that he's been at this team since 2020. It's realistically coming into this year, it was his team. And Pierre Gasly's kind of come in the second half of the year especially, and has looked quite a bit stronger than him. And I do think with his contract coming up at the end of next year, I do think that there's going to be quite a bit of pressure on Ocon to perform in the early part of 2024 in order to stay at Alpine for 2025. Not really considering who could be on that driver market wanting to get into that, obviously a works team seat. But for Ocon, I think just the way that the season's kind of gone, he started off very well, but then kind of as the season's gone along, Gasly's gotten more embedded, more comfortable with the team, and between himself and Gasly, Gasly's looking like the stronger driver, which is definitely disappointing for Ocon, given that he did look quite good against Alonso, an older Alonso. But of course, for both years with Alonso, there's a caveat there. First year with Alonso, it was basically his first season in F1 since 2018, so there was kind of a process of getting used to F1 again. And last year, a lot more mechanical problems and reliability issues on Alonso's side of the garage. So number four, let's see, Kevin Magnussen. So for Magnussen, I think he's had a pretty tough season. I think coming into this year with Nico Hülkenberg as a teammate, I do think that he had higher expectations of, being the number one driver in terms of points in qualifying. But given how he performed against Mick Schumacher, out-qualified Schumacher pretty well. Race head-to-head was very close, and there's people on both sides of the argument who can argue about race head-to-head battle, average finishing position, all sorts of things there. But for this season, Magnussen's definitely been quite lacking in qualifying form, which unfortunately, given how bad the Haas's are on a Sunday, is really the only place that they can show any kind of pace. And Hülkenberg's definitely been the standard driver too on Saturdays. And with the sprints this year, it's actually given them some points, particularly in Austria, where Hülkenberg basically managed to salvage quite a few points there. So for Magnussen, he'll be looking forward to next year and hoping to kind of right some of the negative performances, especially in qualifying. Now, last two drivers, I was originally going to do 5 drivers for this video, but then I realized, no, this driver's been quite disappointing. I think I have to include them in this kind of video. But for number 5, George Russell. So for Russell, I think coming into this season, after what was a very strong first year at Mercedes, beat Hamilton in points head-to-head and average finishing position, I do think that there were really high expectations for Russell coming into this year. And I know there's all the talk about, Hamilton doing experimental setups and stuff early in the season. But the reality is, I do think, second year of the team, I kind of expected Russell to continue to embed himself in the team, improve as a driver. But this year, it kind of feels like he's kind of taken a step back, not in terms of qualifying. I think the qualifying is about the same as last year, but in terms of races and race pace, I do think he's actually worse compared to Hamilton last year. So that's something that he's definitely going to want to get on top of for next season. Number 6, final driver on the list. You guys can probably figure out who it is, but it is Sergio Perez. So for Perez, really tough 2023 season, started incredibly well. But after we get to Miami, things basically went downhill very, very quickly. And I've already talked about in quite a bit of detail about Perez's struggles this year, so I'm going to keep this brief. But for Perez, I think he really, especially given how good the car was, I think he would have expected more than 2 wins, more than I think the 8 or 9 podiums he has. But for Perez, he's going to be looking forward to 2024, assuming he has a seat. I'm not going to speculate on that here, but assuming he's in the Red Bull next year, he's going to be wanting to kind of improve and show his form that closer to what he had in 2022. So that's all. There's my 6 drivers in F1 from 2023 who I think had who had disappointing seasons and who will be looking forward to next year. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.